All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest edition of the Peyton Doyle Show. I'm Peyton Doyle, host of the Peyton Doyle Show. Hope you all are having a fantastic day today. Later on in the show today, I'm going to bring on Justin Marville to talk about some NFL. He's a really great guy, has really interesting takes. It's going to be a great conversation, so I can't wait for that. But something great happened this week. Something amazing happened this week. Tuesday marked the end of a contract negotiation that felt like an eternity. The heavyweight battle, Dak Prescott versus Jerry Jones, players versus owners, millionaires versus billionaires. This time, it was the underdog, Dak Prescott, who won. Dak Prescott has signed a 4-year extension worth up to $164 million and $126 million guaranteed, which is the second most guaranteed money in the NFL behind only Patrick Mahomes himself. Dak is now going to be getting paid $40 million a year. Jerry Jones got worked. Jerry Jones got worked. We all knew this would have to happen eventually. You would have to sign Dak Prescott eventually. He was going to get an extension. Jerry Jones could have done this 2 years ago and got Dak for $30 million a year, and that would have saved him nearly $40 million across 4 years. But he kept betting against Dak, and Dak kept betting on himself, and Dak won. That was the obvious. But now the question is, does Dak deserve all this money? Are the Cowboys hurting themselves by paying Dak this much money? Dak 100% deserves all of this money. Look, I know it's funny to hate on the Dallas Cowboys because of their rambunctious fans and everyone wants to be the next Stephen A. Smith, right? But I don't understand how anyone can hate on Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has never been anything other than a tremendous role model and an inspiring leader. I've never understood why people think that Dak is not a franchise quarterback in the NFL. I understand why people think he may not be the most talented quarterback in the NFL. I understand that. But why does that matter? Jay Cutler had all the talent in the world, but he was just a jerk and his teammates hated him. It was obvious that Dak is the heart of the Dallas Cowboys. It was obvious when he went down last year that their leader went down. And you could see it in his eyes too. You could see he was upset because he was going to miss playing with his guys. He thought they had a shot this year. He thought he had a shot at MVP, and he did, statistically. That's the guy who I will be paying $40 million a year. That's the guy who I want to be the face of my franchise quarterback. A guy who loves his guys and his guys love him back. A guy who picks up the hearts and spirits of his teammates. I just never understood the major criticism with Dak. Early in his career, people said he gets carried by Zeke and his offensive line and that he never puts up big numbers. But then Zeke and the offensive line regress and his numbers are some of the best numbers in the league. And people say, well, he's not winning. Well, yeah, probably because his team regressed. So you obviously need good pieces around you to win games. That's what every quarterback needs. Winning isn't only a quarterback thing. It's a team thing. And I think people are forgetting that. The problem with the Cowboys is that they can't start winning until they get some help on the defensive side of the ball. Their defense is porous. Like I say all the time, Swiss cheese defense. They need to fill some holes there. But the problem is they don't have enough cap space. They are going to have to restructure some deals to get cap space because there are too many bad contracts on that team. DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith, Ezekiel Elliott, even maybe Amari Cooper are all being paid way too much based off how valuable they are to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm glad Dak Prescott got his money. Personally, I think it is well deserved. Now it's time to bring on Justin Marville, host of thisJUSTin Sports Show. Before I do, though, I want to say I recorded this segment yesterday, and there was a little bit of an issue with my mic, but I still want to have this on the show because Justin had some really interesting takes, so let's check it out. All right, welcome in, Justin. Welcome to the Peyton Doyle Show. Thank you for coming on once again. And so the biggest news this week that I really wanted to talk to you about was obviously it had to be Dak Prescott getting his 4-year, $164 million contract with $126 million of that guaranteed, putting him at the second most guaranteed money in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes himself. Personally, I thought this was going to happen, and it was only a matter of time when Jerry Jones finally tightened up and decided to give Dak his money that I believe he definitely deserved. I think while Dak might not be a top 5 talent in this league, I think he is definitely a top 5 leader in this league. Do you think the Cowboys made the right decision in paying Dak Prescott all this money?
I don't think they had any other decision to make unless they were going to franchise tag him. And oddly enough, as huge numbers you called, and I think the first year is $75 million. I think he has $66 million in a signing bonus. As crazy as those numbers sound, Peyton, they actually saved in terms of salary cap by giving him this deal instead of actually franchise tagging him. So this was the only deal that made sense. And as you correctly said, it was only a matter of time before it got done. Me personally, I thought that they could have saved $10 million per by signing him 2 years ago, just like what LA did with Goff and what Philly did with Carson Wentz. But you see what happened in both scenarios. Like, they quickly paid these guys what everyone thought would have been eventual bargains for the teams themselves. And now they've both moved on from them just 2 years later. In a situation like this, yes, Dallas is paying more, but they may have actually played the situation right, because at least they know for certain now that 2 years later, they have their guy. And he may not be a top 5 quarterback, Peyton, but let's go through the list of people who are definitely better than him. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, maybe Josh Allen. That's what, 6 quarterbacks I call. Mm-hmm. You cannot bring another quarterback that is definitively better than Dak. And I want to say, I'd put him around Josh Allen and say he's either the 6th or the 7th best quarterback. And it's just what the market demands. You know, whenever your time is, you're going to get paid. And if we think this is a lot of money, just wait till Lamar Jackson has to be paid. And this is a guy who has made the playoffs 3 straight years. He has a playoff win and an MVP. Like, whatever Lamar Jackson is going to make is going to trump this deal by quite a bit.
Yeah, certainly. This deal was definitely good news for quarterbacks who are going to be in need for a contract soon, because they're going to get a lot of money if they're anywhere near good, like Lamar Jackson. And then we'll see what happens when guys like Kyler Murray, if he continues to improve, when it's time for him to get a new deal. These guys are going to be paid a lot. And that's just how the market goes with quarterbacks, because every team wants a quarterback and they want to have their guy for the long term. So everyone's getting big money. And honestly, I think the Cowboys made the right move here. I think they probably should have done it 2 years earlier. It would have saved them probably about $40 million overall if you subtract, because he'd probably be getting paid around $30 million a year if they did the contract 2 years ago. So in a 4-year deal, that would save them about $40 million. But I don't think the problem is Dak's contract. I think it's the contracts around the team. There's a lot of guys in the top 5 of their position that, honestly, they're underachievers, like Zeke, Jalen Smith. Those guys are not top 5 players at their position at all, and they're getting paid like it. And it's hurting them a lot in the cap. It's preventing them from being able to put a good defense on that team. And the good defense would really go really far if they had a good defense, because you have a really talented offense, you have a great leader at quarterback, but you have a really bad defense. So it's hard to win in the playoffs when things get tight, because you can't really do a shootout every single game. It doesn't really work like that. So they certainly need to draft well on the defense, because they need a lot of rookie contracts that are cheap. So we'll see what they do on the defensive side of the ball to clean things up. But I certainly think that Dak Prescott is the guy at quarterback for them. So some other quarterback news this week, though. Cam Newton re-signed with the Patriots. It's another 1-year deal, mostly incentive-based. I actually don't hate the move, but I feel like if anyone thinks that Cam Newton is the future in New England, that's just kind of foolish. Currently, the Patriots have the 15th overall pick in the upcoming draft. Do you like the signing of Cam Newton? And what do you think the Patriots should do to solve their quarterback problem moving forward?
Like you, I don't hate it. I don't love it. The rumors out of New England are that Bill wanted to go back for Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think that kind of got squashed when John Lynch came right out and said that this is our guy moving forward. I want to say don't believe John Lynch, by the way. I really don't. But that obviously squashes any deal there. And it's like, yes, there's a lot of quarterback movement this season, but realistically, who are the Patriots going to target? Like, I don't expect the Jets to move on from Sam Darnold until they else. Like, Stafford is already gone. The only solution I could see for New England outside of Cam really is Matt Ryan. And again, that depends on what they do with, I think they have the number 4 overall pick. And I suspect they're going to go quarterback. So it all depends on what Atlanta does at number 4. Clearly, New England sitting at 15, unless they move up, they're not going to get a quarterback of note to go forward. Because if we're to believe the reports, the top 5 quarterbacks will all be gone in the first 10 picks. And by that, we mean Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Matt Jones. I'm only in love with 2 of those, by the way. So it was a case, I think they were cornered. No, yes, Cam as a pure pocket passer looked absolutely dreadful last season. I think it was 8 touchdowns as opposed to 10 interceptions. But then we have to add the rushing component because this is a true dual threat quarterback. So we can't ignore the 12 touchdowns he had. And who is to say that this Patriots team last season would not be a lot better were they not the 8 holdouts due to COVID-19? I think a lot of people forget that Dante Hightower did not play, neither did Patrick Chung, and these are defensive stalwarts. These are the captains of that defense. They merely, they were 7-9. Had those 2 played with the other 6, who knows what the Patriots look like? And as good as Buffalo is in that division still is wide open because we do know the Dolphins, they're still young, still unproven, and still miss the playoffs. And, well, the dumpster fire that is the New York Jets. So you're asking me, do I like it? I don't hate it. How do they solve? I think you're going to have to wait until draft time to see, what the Jets do with Sam Darnold or what Atlanta also does with Matt Ryan, as well as, because I get the feeling, although John Lynch came out and said, this is our guy, I keep hearing reports that this team is willing to move up to nab somebody like Justin Fields or even a Trey Lance.
Yeah, I hear a lot of Trey Lance circulating around the 49ers. I don't know if he's going to be there. I believe they're at the 12th overall pick. I don't think he's going to last until 12th overall. I think he's going to be gone before then, especially after his great pro day yesterday. I mean, he showed a lot of talent at his pro day, and he's very athletic as well. So honestly, the Patriots, I think they better hope that Mac Jones somehow falls to them because at 15th overall, you have a lot of guys, like you said, the top 5 quarterbacks are probably going to go in the top 10 this year, which is unbelievable. That's unbelievable. But that's just the way things are with quarterbacks these days. I don't think Cam is the future. And you're right. Once they get a lot of those defensive players back that opted out for COVID last year, they could look like a completely different team, but they are in a tough division. Cam Newton, I just feel like he can't really get the job done anymore, especially when he needs to throw the ball. 8 touchdowns last year. I believe he played in 15 games. That was the 3rd least by any quarterback of all time, starting at least 15 games in NFL history, which is unbelievable in an age where passing is so dominant in every offense. You know what I mean? Over running. So yes, while he does provide like a dual threat aspect to an offense, you also need to be able to throw the ball a lot more. You know what I mean? So I don't know what the Patriots are going to look like, but I don't doubt Bill Belichick. They got to have something up their sleeves. I don't think the Jets are going to move on from Sam Darnold, and that's going to segue me into the next question I'm going to ask you, the Jets quarterback situation. On my last episode, I said the Jets should trade back in the draft and get some help for Sam Darnold. I said drafting Kyle Pitts would be the best option. Now, I wouldn't be opposed if there was a Rashawn Slater still on the board from Northwestern, an offensive lineman, a versatile offensive lineman you could put at almost any position on the line. That would help out the Jets a lot. If you're Joe Douglas and you're the New York Jets, you have Sam Darnold. You also have the second overall pick. What are you doing at the quarterback position going into next year?
So I love that you brought this up because you and I have been going back and forth over all social media accounts about this. I feel you on the Kyle Pitts because outside of Trevor Lawrence, I do believe he is the best player in this draft. But again, it comes down to impact by position. And does a top-level tight end carry the same impact as a high-end quarterback? We all know the answer to that. And I do believe, let us say for argument's sake, that there was not turnover in the coaching ranks. Then I can see a situation where they may have stood with Sam Darnold. But you have a new head coach. He's brought in a new offensive coordinator. And when you look at situations where new head coaches stick with quarterbacks that they did not draft, typically it does not go well. Let's look no further than my own individual rival, the Bears. Matt Nagy came in, got a bit out of Trubisky, and, then it just went south. And I honestly believe from the time he took over, you should always look to get your own quarterback, your own guy, a guy that you like and not one that's forced on you. Same thing, San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo. And there's one other situation I am trying to remember, but typically when you come into that marriage, it just doesn't work. And I know that Adam Gase is a lot to blame. Like, this is a terrible head coach. Let's just not make any excuses for it. We saw it in Miami. We thought Ryan Tannehill was done. He left from Miami, and now this is a Pro Bowl level quarterback that we're talking about for a team that has made an AFC championship and made back the playoffs again. And then we saw how bad he was in New York, meaning Adam Gase. But for those who are Sam Darnold apologists, I want to remind people, right, this is the guy who was expected to be the number one overall pick going into his final season at USC. And he just bungled that by throwing 13 interceptions. Now, granted, you could say a lot of the talent graduated to the NFL ranks. But watching top-level quarterback play for a long time, which I have been able to do as a Green Bay Packers fan, yeah, I'm boasting and bragging about that. No, I know interceptions are one of three things. And one of those three things is not lack of talent. Interceptions come down to typically your inability to read pre and post snap, one, bad decision-making, two, or bad mechanics. So as bad as the situation was in New York and not as favorable in his last season at USC, it does not explain the high turnover numbers from Sam Darnold. So to make my point quickly as I've gone on, I do not see a situation where Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur pass on Zach Wilson because of the talent that is there. Because these mistakes, let us for argument's sake say Zach Wilson turns into a top 15 quarterback. These are the mistakes that get you fired. You can arguably say you know what Sam Darnold is already. You just can't miss on what Zach Wilson could very possibly be.
I understand the argument, but here's what I would have to say. I feel like people downplay the importance of a great tight end. If you have a good tight end, it's not that important. Like Mark Andrews is important to the Ravens, but he's not like that important. You know what I mean? Like, you could replace him with another tight end because that's mostly just the system of that offense. But Travis Kelce, guys like George Kittle, Darren Waller, what they do to their teams and how they help their quarterbacks out, I feel like is unmatched. And even look at what Gronk did and Brady have done for many years, and look how it happened in the Super Bowl, 2 touchdowns. The tight end position is something, if you have a great tight end, I feel like that's priceless because it'll help the interception numbers go down as well for Sam Darnold, I feel like, because he'll have a guy who he could check down to in the middle of the field and a guy who simply, you can't put a linebacker on Kyle Pitts. he's better than most of the receivers in this draft. He will burn and get open on any linebacker in the NFL. I don't care how good they are in pass coverage. It doesn't matter. If you give him a zone coverage with a linebacker, he will beat it every single time. You're going to own the middle of the field. He's going to have a guy he could either beat deep on a 15 yards down the field or dump off to on a 5-yard little dump off route, curl route or something like that. So I think that the tight end position in the NFL is something that is extremely undervalued. And if you have a great tight end, there is no price tag on that, because look at what George Kittle's done. Like, when Jimmy Garoppolo's hurt, Nick Mullins looks like a good quarterback when George Kittle's on the field. Like, he elevates the play of the quarterbacks that play in San Francisco just by being on the field. So I feel like if you're the Jets, and I understand you don't want to pass up on Zach Wilson because, like you said, it could be something that is what you get fired for as a GM if you were Joe Douglas. But you won't know if Zach Wilson is a top 15 quarterback after 1 year. I say if you move back in the draft, you take Kyle Pitts, and you obviously get help in the offseason with free agency with all the cap space that you have. Sam Darnold doesn't have that many more excuses. So if he's bad again next year, odds are your team is also going to be bad again, which means then you could get the quarterback you want if you're Robert Saleh. Because who knows, maybe Robert Saleh is looking at this year's draft class and is like, man, if I can't get Trevor Lawrence, I mean, there's nobody that I'm sold on, because personally, there's nobody that I'm truly sold on. Like, other than Trevor Lawrence, I feel like you can switch around Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance. I feel like they're all 2A, 2B, and 2C to me. I feel like they're all kind of the same thing. I feel like Mac Jones is out of there. I'm not a Mac Jones guy whatsoever. But I feel like there's not a big separation of talent at the number 2 overall pick. So that's why I feel as if they should take Kyle Pitts, who is a generational talent at the tight end position in an increasingly more important position in the NFL. That's why I feel as if they shouldn't take a quarterback at number 2 overall this year.
I feel you on Kyle Pitts, but here's something, Peyton, that we discussed earlier on, and it could strengthen your point as to why you don't need a quarterback. The offensive system that the Jets are now about to roll out, we've seen it all over the NFL of recent, and it has been successful wherever it goes. And I'm referring to Mike Shanahan. He's the former head coach of those Super Bowl winning teams with John Elway and Terrell Davis. While he was the head coach in Washington, he developed a coaching tree of the successful head coaches that we're seeing now. Sean McVay was the tight ends coach. Kyle Shanahan, his son, was the offensive coordinator. And Matt LaFleur, Green Bay Packers head coach, he was the quarterbacks coach. And what it is a run-first zone running scheme, basically. Yes, you want Kyle Pitts, but look what has happened when we put that scheme in Green Bay. All of a sudden now, Robert Tonyan has developed into, you can argue, a top 10, probably a top 5 tight end in the league right now. He led all tight ends in touchdown receptions just this last season. That scheme is going to scheme people open, especially tight ends and running backs coming out of the back end, because it is predicated on running the football, as I said before, and the quarterbacks get easy reads off of naked bootlegs, off of play action. That's what that scheme really develops. And you look no further, let's go recent history. We saw Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator in San Francisco. That got all the way, before that, as the offensive coordinator, in Atlanta. That got to the Super Bowl. Sean McVay then the next year took the Rams to the Super Bowl. The year after that, Kyle Shanahan takes over San Francisco. They get to the Super Bowl. Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, back-to-back NFC title games. That is what this offense will do. And now you're seeing Aaron Rodgers back to MVP form. So yes, that strengthens your point. Maybe, yes, you should just stick with Sam Darnold. But I feel like because of the importance of the position, I just don't want to take the risk of passing up on Zach Wilson. I'm not saying you're wrong, because Kyle Pitts is a generational talent in my point of view. But I just look at the importance by position, and obviously a top-tier quarterback is greater than a top-tier tight end.
Yeah, certainly in these days, that is definitely true. A top tier quarterback is better than a top tier tight end. But I just don't know if these guys are top tier quarterbacks outside of Trevor Lawrence because there's so much talent in the league at the quarterback position where it's hard to separate guys anymore because everyone is talented now because they're getting coaching from such a young age and being brought up from such a young age that there is talent out there at the quarterback position. I think Sam Darnold is also a guy who's talented. Now, he does have the interception problem, but like you said, in this Shanahan offense, the system, the tight ends thrive. Shannon Sharp in Denver with John Elway and Terrell Davis. You have George Kittle. They had great tight ends in Atlanta. I don't know if that was Austin Hooper when they made the Super Bowl, but the tight ends always thrive in that system. I think it would help a whole lot to have a guy who is great regardless of the system, but then the system also makes him completely unguardable. That's almost like what is happening with George Kittle, what happened with Shannon Sharp back in the day. So I don't know. It's certainly interesting. I feel like you can't go wrong either way. Like if the Jets were to take a quarterback, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, that's their downfall. You know what I mean? I wouldn't overreact about that, but I certainly think if I was them, I would wait another year with Sam Darnold, see what he looks like in this offense, get a few weapons around him in free agency, definitely get a good running back because Michael P. Ryan is just not it at running back. So the Jets just have a lot more holes than I believe just Sam Darnold is. But we'll see what they do. It's certainly interesting to see what happens. This is my favorite time of the year, the off season, with free agency, trades, the draft. There's just so many what if scenarios going around the NFL right now. It is just it's interesting to think about what could happen. But now, Justin, before you go, I can't let you leave until we talk about your Green Bay Packers.
Oh my gosh.
They made an interesting move this week, deciding not to place the franchise tag on Aaron Jones and deciding to let him hit the open market. This is a guy who is fourth in total touchdowns since 2018. So he's certainly going to get interest from some other teams. Now, I know they have A.J. Dillon, who they drafted in the second round last year, and he did have a big game against the Titans in the snow. I remember that. But Aaron Jones was an extremely valuable part of that offense for the past few years. And now he's going to be a free agent. What do you think about the Packers' decision to let Aaron Jones hit the open market? And what moves do you think the Packers should make when free agency opens this Wednesday?
So the first thing I need to say as it relates, because you can't talk about scenarios without talking about scenarios. And I say that to say the Green Bay Packers are ruled by tradition. They have never, ever, ever used the franchise or transition tag on a player. Never. And they probably never will. That's just their MO. So when they didn't franchise tag Aaron Jones, that was not a surprise. They did offer him a contract during the season and just recently starting, I think, about $9 million per. And he's turned that down. He's seeking something along the elite lanes of what Alvin Kamara and company made, 12 to 16 million per range. And as we've noted, like with Zeke Elliott, you just don't pay for running back that amount of money and expect to win. That being said, as you correctly said, he is a vital piece of our offense. But the zone running scheme that is being employed in Green Bay basically allows for anyone to come in and do almost the same thing, because I'm not sure we're going to be able to replace his ability as a pass catcher out of the backfield. And he is elite at that. Like, you can line him up as a wide receiver. I think not last season, but the season before, Devontae Adams had a huge stretch of games missed, and he led us in catches during that span. He is just that good as a receiving threat out of the backfield. So it's going to be hard to replace that. But Aaron Jones is as good as gone. My thing about running backs is that of all the positions in football, that is the one position in the draft where these players hit the ground running immediately. So I think that we can find good value at, a second or third round pick because he himself, I want to say, the fifth or sixth round draft choice. And look what he's become. We already drafted in the second round A.J. Dillon last year. No, he is not the receiving threat that Aaron Jones is, but he is going to make up as he is that ground and pound guy. So I agree with them not looking to pay Aaron Jones that contract that he's looking for. We're still, I think, after yesterday's moves, we just restructured Adrian Amos and I want to say Preston Smith. The rumors out there is that we're looking to also extend Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and we recently reworked David Bakhtiari's deal. So, and I think we're now only $1.3 million over the cap. So we should get there once these deals are reworked. Unlike most outside of Green Bay, obviously I'm on the inside looking in already, I am not that thirsty of going after a big level receiver. I saw the development of Marquez Valdes-Scantling this season, led the league in average yards per catch at 20. He was a great deep ball threat. Inconsistency is there, but you saw towards the tail end of the second half of the season after that Indianapolis game, he just got better and better and better, and the consistency started to show. So I know a lot of people want us to go after Will Fuller. I'm not one of those because that is going to be a lot of money that you're going to have to spend. And I think there is still a 1-game suspension for his PED use, I think, or whatever not. So I'm not sure there. Maybe you can draft a wide receiver in the second or third round, which we should have done last season. What we need is some more pass rushing help. Preston Smith fell off from his incredible first year with us. Zadarius Smith is just really, I think, one of the most underrated players in all of football. He is a top 5 outside linebacker, definitely without a shadow of a doubt. I would go as far as to say probably 2 or 3. But we do need some more pass rushing help. Corey Linsley, our all-pro starting center, we're likely not bringing him back. He's going to be demanding too much money. I think we're going to have to spend like a draft choice on him, the starting center position. And I think like the offensive line and the front 7 on defense are the first 2 areas of need, and cornerback, because Kevin King, although I want him gone, he's going to be leaving a gaping hole alongside Jair Alexander. So those are the 3 areas of concern that I think that we have to address in both free agency and the draft.
Yeah, certainly I agree with that. They definitely need a little bit of help to help them get over the hump in the NFC. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC now that they're going to have to compete with. But regardless of what you guys do, you have Aaron Rodgers. You always have an opportunity to win games if you have Aaron Rodgers on your team. I agree with the notion of not paying Aaron Jones, not bringing him back. The more that I think about it, the more that I think you're right when you say it's just never a good idea to pay a running back that much money. You look at Christian McCaffrey, just got big money, barely even played last year. Not really necessarily his fault, but he was injured. And even if he did play, the Panthers they were not going to be that good. You look at what the Rams did. They paid Todd Gurley all that money, didn't pan out. And when you draft guys, when you draft running backs, they do instantly translate. You look at Zeke his first year, Saquon his first year, Leonard Fournette his first year. All these guys, when you draft them, Christian McCaffrey his first year. When you draft running backs, if they're going to be good, they instantly translate to the NFL. So we'll see. I certainly like the pick of A.J. Dillon now. I didn't like it last year, but now I do like it because, like you said, Marquez Valdes-Scantling improved a lot last year. So did Allen Lazard as well, alongside Devontae Adams. So the receiving core there, I don't feel like it's that bad. I don't think you guys do need another receiver. I think it's perfectly fine there, especially when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. He can make anyone look really good. So we'll see what they'll do. It's going to be certainly interesting this offseason for every team in the NFL. It's going to be really interesting because you have the lower salary cap now due to COVID and stuff like that. So it's going to be an interesting offseason. I really can't wait for Wednesday when the new league year starts. I believe it starts at 4 p.m. and then teams can start signing people. It's going to be interesting. And everyone, make sure to go check out Justin's podcast, thisJUSTin. I'll have the link to it down below in the description to his YouTube and all his social media as well at thisJUSTin. So make sure to check him out. He's really great. He does a lot of live stuff. I know him and Adam Lewis from the What Off Season Sports Pod. They go on Instagram Live every Thursday. It's really great. It's really, really fun to join and just listen to them talk. So make sure to go check them out for sure. And also, Justin, thank you again for coming on, man.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for inviting me because, as I said, I love your stuff. We spoke about that off camera. And you have to be the first Cleveland Browns fan I actually know. Like, I know absolutely no Cleveland Browns supporters. So I want to tell you as a word of advice and not for your show. Whatever you do, do not extend Baker Mayfield. No, do not do it. Because if you extend him now, you're going to overpay him. And I want to tell you, Baker Mayfield is not as good as the second half stats suggest.
We'll see next year. We'll see next year when he's finally had his second year in the offense, because every single year he's had a new head coach. This is going to be his first year having a returning head coach. I'm excited to see what Baker Mayfield can do this year. I certainly think we should at least pick up his fifth-year option and give him an extension if he plays well this year, because then that's going to be 2 years in a row of good, consistent performance. What I like to see for Baker Mayfield isn't necessarily big numbers. I like to see winning games and no turnovers. The less interceptions you throw over Baker Mayfield, the better, because honestly, like I said during the season, the Browns are so much better when it's just a sprinkle of Baker Mayfield on that offense.
And that's basically what Kevin Stefanski has done. Now, it's not exactly the offense that Mike Shanahan has taught his disciples, but it's very close. And all Stefanski basically does, I mean, you are a Cleveland Brown fan, so you know, you've seen it for yourself. What they do is a ground and pound, a run first system, and they essentially cut the field in half for Baker and don't ask him to do too much other than please don't turn over the football. So it is a lot of naked bootleg stuff, a lot of play action stuff. And so it cuts the field in half and makes his reads extremely easy for him. So I know a lot of people are enamored at seeing his second half stats and how how little turnovers he had and in numbers. But again, it is like the training wheels are basically on for Baker Mayfield. And what Kevin Stefanski has done for him is absolutely marvelous. Just don't make the reads hard. And please just don't turn over the football. Hand it off to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and we're going to win football games.
Certainly. I was a big Kevin Stefanski fan when we hired him. I thought it was a great hire. I loved what he's done with his offense. We'll see what happens with Baker Mayfield when the time comes. But thank you, my man, for coming on the show, man. I'll make sure to have your stuff in the bio. Check him out at thisJUSTin on Instagram and all social media. And check him out on YouTube as well, thisJUSTin Sports Show. Thank you for coming on, Justin.
Anytime, Peyton, anytime.
What a great guy. Love talking to him, man. Everyone, please make sure to check out Justin's podcast, thisJUSTin. I'll have the link to his YouTube in the description down below. Really interesting guy, some amazing takes. Too bad my microphone was just not cooperating. I'm sorry for that. I'm going to try to edit that and make it as good as possible, but I'm sorry for that. But like I said, make sure to go follow him on social media at thisJUSTin and make sure to show him love. He does really, really great work. And that's going to be it for today. Thank you all so much for watching and or listening. Please make sure to like, follow, or subscribe wherever you may be listening. And if you haven't already, please make sure to follow the show on social media at Peyton Doyle Show. That is at Peyton Doyle Show. Thank you all so much for watching, and please make sure to stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.